run it about once every 4 or 5 days.
That's all I do. Just when I get it full.
I rinse anything off of it so there's no smell.
Yeah, last night I had beef and tortilla casserole,
Oh.
and it's a Mexican dish. And I had to heat it in the microwave, and the cheese always sticks to the dish.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you know what you do. You spray the dish with Pam before you put the stuff in the dish.
I never thought about that. I made a coconut pie.
Well, now get hooked up. I want both of these. While you're doing this, you can be doing the other one too, the tape.
Well,
Oh.
are you ready?
Well, just about.
But I gotta put the tape. I gotta put the tape in the thing.
Oh.
I can't see to put it in.
Bring it over. I'll check it for you.
The audio tape, you mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly like mine.
Is it?
Only mine's a GE. Where's the eject button?
It's next to the pause.
Okay. Is this what you want used?
Working.
Well, the lid won't go down.
Got it in wrong. Wait a minute now. Have to get it into the grooves here.
Oh, well, see, mine I slide it in on the heads. Okay. Now, are you ready?
Okay.
You gotta sit down here now.
Well, that's all right. Well, I'm going to see what you're doing first, and then I'll sit down. I want to make sure we're doing this right. I'm on the camera. I put the green light is on. And it's going around. Now, this is what day? July 13th?
Today is July the
13th.
13th, 1996, at the home of Ethyl Anderson in Leisure World, Seal Beach.
Okay, keep going.
I beg your pardon?
Keep going.
Ethel, wait a minute, I have to record. Ethel, I want to know what, I know you didn't live in here, you didn't move in here when the day it opened, where
No.
there was a massive move-in, but you've talked to a lot of the people who have.
Yes.
What were their memories of that day?
Well, you see, they didn't all move in at the same time. Mutual 1 moved in when Mutual 1 was completed, and then Mutual 2 moved in when it was completed.
But wasn't there a humongous crowd that moved in the same day?
Well, of course, Mutual 1 is one of the largest mutuals. They have 844 apartments,
Yeah.
and so that was a lot of people. And then the moving vans and everything, you see, were all around. They had a good time down in Clubhouse 1. They had sort of a get acquainted down there. They served coffee and all got acquainted that way.
Who served the coffee?
Well, the recreation department furnished coffee for a long time in Clubhouse 1 for people who came to look at the apartments, and all those people that were first move-ins. They used to bring their coffee pots down there and fill them and take them home for their breakfast or lunch or whatever.
They're still doing the same stuff.
Why, tell us about where the offices were.
Well, there weren't any offices in Leisure World.
No office buildings.
No office buildings.
But where did they conduct business?
Well, first of all, the New Horizons real estate office was in a trailer located down approximately where Beverly Manor is now.
I see.
And when they began to operate, they had offices in the show apartments, or the model apartments, which is now Mutual 16. They had a furniture company that you could buy your carpeting for your apartments, and they had the physical properties there, and they had the medical there.
In the model apartments.
In the model apartments.
But when the people bought their apartments, they didn't have carpet in them.
Yes, Mutual 1 did.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Because they were more or less show apartments.
No. That's the way they were sold.
But the other mutuals didn't carpet the apartments?
I think that one of the people in my building had carpeting when she moved in.
The original move-in?
Yes. But this apartment didn't have any carpeting in it.
Were
Nothing.
you the original move-in to this apartment?
Well, I was
Because
original
they had-
move-in, but this was one of those that someone signed up for and then didn't move in.
I see.
And so it was being paid for by the residents in Mutual 3 until they could sell it.
Who was the administrator of Leisure World at that time?
Louis Letson.
And where was his
L-E-W-I-S.
office?
Sir,
Where was his office?
in Taj Mahal, which is where Fidelity Federal is now.
Oh, he wasn't on site at all.
Oh no,
Who'd he work for?
he worked for Ross Cortese.
So Ross Cortese retained the administrative function, management function.
Oh yes.
Well, tell me this. They built Mutual 1 and then they built Mutual 2. How soon did they build such as Mutual 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on?
Well, Mr. Cortese he had to get 80% of the signatures for the purchase of apartments before he could construct
Oh.
that unit. And
In
so,
other words, he had 80% of the apartments sold before he ever started building. that
in each
particular-
unit,
Yeah.
in each unit,
By unit, you mean mutual.
Mutual.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's very interesting. But then some of those 80% ended up not carrying out their contract, such as the one that bought your apartment.
Yeah. That I bought.
Yes, this one.
Yeah. Now, Mother and I bought our apartment in Mutual 3, but it was over on Golden Rain and Alderwood,
Yes.
and that was a
And it was
two-bed.
a two-bedroom.
Mhm.
Was it a corner?
No.
It wasn't a corner either.
No.
And what made you decide to move to a one-bedroom?
What did you say?
What made you decide
Oh,
to sell
price.
that apartment and move into a one-bedroom?
the price.
How
I was
much?
alone,
How much?
and I paid $650 for it.
Period?
Period.
What had you paid for the two-bedroom apartment?
About $1,500. Now that's what the cash that you pay,
Yes.
and you know that you're paying every month on the
Right.
mortgage and principal. Yeah.
Absolutely. 30 years later, 32 years later.
Yeah.
They were 40-year mortgages at that time, is that right?
Right.
Well, all the mortgages for such as, say, Mutual 3, that'll end at a different time from the mortgage for Mutual 8 where I live.
Just a month's difference.
Oh,
Because Unit 15 was finished in 1965. So you see, it was just months difference.
but the original move-ins came in 62, didn't they?
Yes. And I was supposed to come in 62, but it rained so much it slowed down construction. And so I didn't move in until January of 63.
I see.
But I should have moved in about November of 62.
I see. But your apartment wasn't ready.
No.
So your Mutual 6 was finished for move-in purposes in 62 at the end of December, say.
Should have been.
But it wasn't.
No, because of the rain.
And you moved in 63,
Yeah.
January.
Hmm.
So it wasn't too far out of contract.
No.
Well, when was Mutual 8 completed, do you know?
No. It had to be in 1964.
Well, tell me, when did they build an administration building?
In 1965.
And did
They built
Cortese build it, or who built it?
No. You see, there wasn't anything built until after the contract with Mr. Cortese was canceled.
Tell us about how that came about, his contract being canceled.
Well, that's a long story.
Well,
We have
we
a
need
long
to know
time.
that.
I have, in June of 1964, Mr. Letson called all the residents to the amphitheater for a meeting. And at that meeting, he told everyone that the Golden Ring Foundation was going to have to raise the monthly payment somewhere around $10
A month.
a month, because the medical center was in a deficit. People were moving in wheelchairs and hospital beds and selling. They were getting all their friends and relatives' prescriptions filled
Oh.
because, well,
They were free.
but it was included their monthly payment,
Mm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason they were going to have to raise it. And they forgot to charge for the water.
Oh.
So they they had to raise the monthly payment, and everybody just got up in arms about it, because at that time, you know, you only had to have one, you know, your salary times 3 was what you had to have in
Yeah.
order to move in.
Right.
And so no one was wealthy. There may have been a few wealthy people, but
It was intended for low-income people, wasn't it?
well, yes, that's what it was. It was Title 213 of the National Housing Act for low-cost cooperative living.
So go ahead. So they were going to
And
raise
so they
the
were up in
monthly-
arms about it. And the first Golden Rain Board, which consisted of people that were appointed, not elected,
Right.
but appointed, decided the best thing to do to quiet everyone down was to appoint a fact-finding committee. And so that fact-finding committee was composed of people that were appointed from the mutuals too. And Mr. Dean Camel and Fred Keating and Don McKenzie were accountants. And they were appointed. And I think there were 7 or 8 people on that fact-finding committee. Well, they found that it was very poor bookkeeping that was going on, and that Mr. Cortese was commingling the funds. And I have found documentation to that effect in all of this stuff that I've gone through.
But did they have him arrested?
Well, honey, they couldn't arrest him because they really weren't stealing anything.
They weren't.
Mixing
I thought
They
he
were
was.
just commingling the funds.
I thought he was taking the money from this leisure world down to Laguna Hills.
Well, wait a minute now. That's
Okay.
too early.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, they started circulating all sorts of flyers and information brochures to the effect to all of the residents. The fact-finding committee was doing this about what they were finding in the books. And then after they saw that it was going to get pretty serious, they got Mr. Bill Williams as their attorney. And Mr. Williams was a friend of the representative from Mutual 3, Les Dryce. And Cortese was going to sue everybody. And the Senior Citizens Protective League was formed about that time. And they were having meetings and telling people what was going on. And so Cortese was about ready to sue him for it. Pop Gamere, who was the representative from Mutual 1, wouldn't let him do it because he knew that once they got the report that they would know themselves that the fact-finding committee was right.
Uh-huh.
And so then it came about that all those people that were on that committee decided to have themselves elected on the Golden Rain Board. And for the first time and the last time, all the directors were elected from all the different mutuals. 2 from Mutual 1 and 2 from Mutual 2. And Dolph Lucas represented Mutual 16. 15 wasn't completed yet. And so then after they got into office, they started this campaign and went up to FHA in the Los Angeles office for meetings to prove what they were saying. And I went up there one time and took the notes.
Because you were
The recording secretary.
for the Golden Rain Board.
Yeah.
When did you
to
start working for the Golden Rain Board as secretary?
August 1964. August 1964.
So you were actually involved in all of these activities
Oh, yes.
and knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Well, I said it was the best job I ever had in my life. Not as far as pay was concerned.
But challenging.
Oh, it was challenging. The first meeting that I recorded, I was petrified. I had never taken dictation from all sorts of people, all through the years. Hard dictation. And this was really a challenge.
So they are the one, was it that group of directors that drew up the bylaws that we now live by?
Oh no, the directors didn't draw those up. Those were drawn up with the help of FHA, using their forms by Cortese.
I see. So before anybody moved in, the bylaws were already in effect.
Yes, the bylaws the articles of incorporation and the bylaws for each one of the mutuals as they were constructed. And the Golden Rain Foundation, of course, was the first one that was incorporated.
Now, okay, let's get back to the
No,
organization.
I'll finish
Excuse me.
with the cancellation. It took us 2 years, almost 2 years, to get that canceled. Because Mr. Cortese had formulated a plan. And FHA knew about it, and probably were a part of it, where he would construct many leisure worlds throughout the United States, Hawaii, and even in Europe. And that he constructed Laguna Hills, which was the second one he did. He constructed a big headquarters building. I suppose you've noticed that if you've been down there.
Yes.
And all of these leisure worlds were going to send their money into the headquarters.
Oh, he was going to run it like a conglomerate.
And then he would do all the paying of the bills and everything, and they would manage it from there.
Oh.
Well, when the people in Leisure World heard what this was, they were not for that at all. They wanted self-government.
Right.
And that when he lost this, then he was very careful that he didn't build the other ones and incorporate them in the same way that he did this one.
Mm.
And of course, after I think I've gotten a little ahead of myself there. When the Golden Rain Board went up to Los Angeles, and Mr. Campbell and Mr. Williams went to Washington, D.C.
Oh.
to see FHA there, it was decided that since we were not happy with our management, that they would allow a different management, but it had to be a management company that was experienced in managing large communities like this.
Uh-huh.
That was what they specified.
I see.
And so Mr. Cortese saw an opportunity, and so he started the National Golden Rain Foundation.
Oh.
And even the newspapers started to be published as the National Golden Rain News under Mr. Letson.
Oh.
And so then they called for bids. They advertised for bids. And he got answers from 2 other management companies. And of course, National Golden Rain Foundation had the smallest management fee.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was just sure that he knew what everybody was bidding before he bid.
Of course.
So then, because the Golden Rain Foundation signed a contract with the National Golden Rain Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and that contract then had to be canceled by this other group. And then because the contract was signed, he took all the money from all of the mutuals and the Golden Rain Foundation through United California Bank to Laguna Hills.
Oh, he got away with that.
Well, we hadn't canceled the contract yet,
I see.
and he He evidently had this all worked out with FHA, and that was the reason that FHA was not very happy about our wanting to cancel it, because it was a management company.
Did they get the Golden Ring get their money back?
Oh, they had to go to court.
But they did get their money back.
Oh, sure. You
So
all have your money.
From
You
then
all have
on,
your money now.
From then on, it was self-government here.
Well, it was supposed to be self-government from the beginning.
I know.
But you see, Mr. Cortese was not going to allow that kind of thing to happen because he wanted to keep his hands on it.
But it became self-government after the court case. We won.
Oh, yes.
We won.
Well, that didn't have anything to do with our winning. He had no business taking this stuff down.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, he had dreams that he was going to do this
he
all
had-
over the world, right?
Yeah, he really was going to be.
And so it was going to snowball. When he got finished here, we'd go down to Laguna
Like
and
a
snowball.
pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
It was like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to Golden Ring. They got that all settled, and there was an election. They had this Golden Ring board elected. How long did they elect that first Golden Ring board for? I don't mean the appointed ones, I mean the elected ones.
Well, for 2 years,
I
just
see.
like they do now.
Well, but some of them must have served for 3 years because they did the alternate.
No, just the even ones served 2 years. And then the odd ones served a year.
Oh,
Pop Gamir was one of them because he was in Mutual One.
I see. You want some water?
No.
All right,
Would
now.
you like to have some, kids?
No, Ethel, don't worry
No,
about it.
thank you. I just wondered about you talking, you know.
No.
If a sip of water might
I
help.
talk all the time, you know.
You're
I
right.
get on the bus and I talk to everybody on the bus.
Good for
Why,
you.
when did they decide to build an administration building?
When they got enough money.
Well, I know, but when was that?
That was the first part of 1964. And they didn't have a whole lot of money. I've forgotten now how much it cost. But they couldn't afford to put an elevator in. And then it had to be a certain way. There had to be a soundproof room for the conference room. And so because they had to have a soundproof room for that, then they had a restroom at the very end of that soundproof room that was only used by the Golden Ring board. And they had to go outside to go back to it, or else go through unlocked conference room.
Oh.
And then it had, the administration building had on the first floor this pharmacy in front. And then the purchasing department.
Right.
And then the accounting department. And
And upstairs were business offices.
the upstairs was the Golden Ring board office for 3 rooms. And then the conference room. And then the administration. And then the accounting office was divided in 4 parts.
Well, now,
And Linda Powers was just a clerk
In the
in
accounting
the
office.
accounting department.
Would you start that?
would this be what is now the medical building?
Yes.
That's the only building that...
The 2-story building.
The 2-story building back there with all of the
Stairway.
stairways.
Outside
Yeah.
stairway.
The medical LAMC used it for accounting. And upstairs they have that social services company that was up. I think it took all the offices upstairs.
Has the medical LMAC withdrawn completely from the old administration building?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's all empty. So
Yeah, I understood it was only the first floor, but then somebody told me the other day that it was the whole thing.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
I went through it.
Now then, the exercise room is going to be,
it's already there and open.
that's going to be wonderful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then,
Don't
and then
get
there-
to that yet. I don't want you to get that far ahead of it. Okay?
Okay, I want to know, like, you said $650 for your apartment. Now, what were your payments on that?
oh, my payments were the same as everybody else's, you know,
Right,
for a
what would they have
one-bedroom
been?
apartment. That was just because
How much was your monthly payment?
it was less than $100, about $88 or something like that.
And that included your property taxes?
No,
Oh, it didn't include your property
no.
taxes?
This is just maintenance?
no, it was
Well, the
And your mortgage, and your
Mortgage.
all the things that you're paying for now, except for the insurance and the taxes. Taxes weren't added on there until,
Well, who paid the
50.
property
Well,
tax?
individuals.
you pay them individually.
I see. Well, you still pay them individually, but you pay it through your monthly
But you
fee.
didn't then.
Right.
Mhm. Your turn to ask a question.
Well, what was the amphitheater here then? You said you
Oh, yes.
all gathered in the amphitheater. Was that part of the first?
See, when Mr. Cortese built, he built the amphitheater and the A-frame and the clubhouses. The reason he built,
And the swimming pool?
yeah, that was later,
Oh, it was.
yes.
Two clubhouses, the amphitheater, right?
No, 3 clubhouses.
3 clubhouses.
Three
Well,
clubhouses?
the third clubhouse was later being built because his agreement was that the clubhouses would be built according to whether he got all the apartments sold.
Mhm.
If he got them all sold, then he built Clubhouse 3. And so after he got Clubhouse 3 built, then he took the offices that were in the models and took them over there to Clubhouse 3. Because there wasn't any office building for him to go to.
And so, when you started working for the Golden Rain Board, you said it was in 1964?
Yes, in an apartment building.
In an apartment building, where?
Across from Clubhouse 1, that parking lot there,
Yes.
the first apartment in the building
Mm-hmm.
on the east side,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
23A,
Mm-hmm.
was
your
our
office.
office.
And
And
you
then,
were the secretary to the president of the Golden Rain Board?
yes,
Did you also serve the other board members?
oh yes,
Mhm.
that's always been that way.
And who else had an office in building 23?
Nobody,
Oh,
they
no.
were all residents.
Oh, I see. Well, where was the say, community relations manager? Where was his office?
In Clubhouse 3,
I see.
when
And
they got it finished,
and physical property.
Clubhouse 3.
How about the maintenance yard? When did they build that?
That got built late in 1964.
I see.
I remember when I moved in over there on Golden Rain, it was in the winter time, and I wondered why my apartment, my living room, didn't get warm. And so I took a day off from work to find out where to go to report it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the physical properties was located in a trailer back where Clubhouse 4 is now, on the back of the lot.
Mm.
And Billy Zahn was the secretary there, and I told her I was having trouble with my living room not getting, so they evidently had some trouble with some other ones. And so she gave me a heater, floor heater, to bring home to use until they can get out to fix it. And they just bored a hole in the ceiling and found where the problem was and then plastered it over.
What was it, a leak?
No, it
A
was,
connection?
see, it was a bad connection.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all electric wires up there in the ceiling.
That was in your apartment on Alderwood.
Yeah,
How long did you live on Alderwood?
until 67.
Oh, you didn't buy this apartment until 67?
Right.
I see.
And it was one of those that we had all of this upset, you see,
Mm-hmm.
with trying to get the contract canceled. And all of the publication, all of the newspapers were full of it. The people didn't want to buy in here.
Naturally, we're going through the same thing now.
Yeah. Not quite as bad.
No. No.
But that was really bad because the fact-finding committee put out an awful lot of material for the people to know just what was going on. And of course, you know, whenever somebody gets a hold of that, the newspaper really
Blaze it
blows it up.
Right, right. Why, it's none of my business, but I'm curious now. You had paid about $1,500 for the apartment on Alderwood.
Yeah,
How much did you get for it?
3,000.
So you actually made a profit.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
That was your first start, right?
That was my first start.
Uh-huh. That's great. But, let's see, what else did I want to ask? Oh, what sort, you said the amphitheater was here. Did they have shows in the summer like they do now?
No, not like they do now. We used to have local talent.
I see.
We had a dancing club, you know, that danced, and they had music. They had plays. Nita Gilliard, who lives she's still living in Mutual 2, was a performer, and she sang and danced, and they had all kinds of things down there.
But no they didn't call in any programs like they do now.
No,
Didn't pay for it, right?
no. They didn't start paying for the shows until after the contract was canceled, and we were doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And Cortese wasn't doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and the swimming pool was already in.
No.
When did they build the swimming pool?
They built the whole thing, the swimming pool and the golf course, at the end of 1993.
No, 63.
I mean 63.
Uh-huh.
I was driving over to Wilmington to work, you know, and I noticed that place over there was just a dump. They were dumping all the building material and everything over there. Had machines, and so I didn't pay much attention to it. And one day when I came home from work, I noticed all of that machines were gone, and they were beginning to clear it off. So I asked them what they were going to do, and they said, you're going to have a golf course here. So that was the end of 63 when they had the golf course finished. And then, of course, the swimming pool was after they got the golf course finished.
Oh, it was. Uh-huh. It came last.
Yeah.
And then when did they build Clubhouse 4?
In 1974 or 5, somewhere along there.
Oh, that late.
Yes.
Now, let me see. Now, talk about the medical center again, please. The the people in Leisure World were allowed to go. It was included in your monthly fees. to the doctors without paying anything?
Blue Cross was the insuring agent.
Everybody had to carry Blue Cross?
No, they didn't have to carry it. They were just insured
I see.
in their monthly payment.
Well, they would have Medicare.
Well, Medicare didn't come until 1966.
Oh, okay.
So
Or
they were
19
just universally covered by Blue Cross when you moved in here, right?
Yes,
And you didn't pay anything.
we paid it in the monthly payment.
Right.
Yeah, well,
We
how-
didn't pay
What do you think?
a fee.
Yeah, what do you don't know what the fee was.
I think we paid about $10 a month.
And they wanted to raise that then, right?
Yes,
That's what started the whole thing.
that's what started the whole thing. And then, of course, when the new board of directors got on, the fact-finding committee got elected, the first thing they had to do was to get busy on the budget,
Right.
because it was late in the year.
Mhm.
Then they had to have it for FHA. And so then they really dug and dug and dug and dug to find out what the expenses were in the medical center. And they decided that the best thing that they could do would be for the people to pay 20% and Blue Cross would pay the 80%. And so that's the way the budget was worked out.
How many doctors did they have in the medical center then?
Well, they had one doctor
Just one
when they
doctor?
first started. When they first started, they
Was
just
that
had.
Dr. Fitch?
Oh no, I've forgotten what his name was.
Well, it doesn't
To
matter.
look that up. And he did all the examining, because everybody had to have a physical examination when they
Mhm.
moved in.
So what were these people doing, bringing in their relatives' prescriptions
Yeah,
and getting them free?
right.
It's like the people in Mutual 12 that don't have to pay for laundry, so people from everywhere outside are coming in and doing their laundry in Mutual 12.
And Mutual 9 doesn't either. They don't charge either over there.
Well, they used to.
When I took care of Lee Falls, I did her laundry over there. Didn't cost me anything.
Really?
They may have changed it now, but
Oh, I think they did. I can't swear to that, but I think Mutual 12 is the only one that has it for nothing. Of course, they include it in the monthly fees, is what the monthly.
oh sure.
And but they had that problem the same as the people that came in. There was a nice little restaurant where Home Savings and Coast Federal is. There was a nice little restaurant there. I can't remember the name.
Susie's.
Hmm?
Susie's.
Well, wasn't the name of it when I came. It was called Susie's.
To begin with, the beginning, or
No,
the restaurant.
the beginning one. Let me tell you about the restaurant,
Okay.
and then we can get into that. A few months after we moved into Leisure World, we got a questionnaire from Mr. Letson asking us what kind of restaurant we would like, if we were going to have one over in the shopping center. And so when they got all the answers in, they constructed the building there. And the whole building was restaurant building. Where Home Savings is now was a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then right on the other side of the wall was a cafeteria where they had awfully good food. It was Manning's, that old restaurant family that's been in business for umpteen years in Los Angeles. And then a big dining room
Mm,
that could be used for a tea room,
mm,
but everybody went there for the cafeteria.
mm,
And then there was an extra room for having parties,
mm.
and it was always closed off. And then on the north side was a lounge
Oh,
where they
cocktail
served
lounge.
cocktails, and you could order your dinner there. And Rick Smith, who used to be a beautician at Bufham's downtown in Long Beach, played a guitar and sang.
Oh.
And
Well,
the
now
ladies,
that, you had to pay for all that individually, right? You couldn't go to the restaurant or anything for free.
oh no, that was a business.
Mm-hmm.
All those over there are all businesses.
Right, right.
And so people used to get in line to get in there. They'd be way out on
St. Andrew's Drive.
almost.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was the first to close? Because when I came, there was just that coffee shop right in the front where Home Savings is.
well, when Manning's decided to get out of the business, then I don't know whether they sold the building to somebody else. I don't know, something in there I don't know about.
Well,
But
there
I
was
know-
a coffee shop when I came here in 1982.
Just Susie's Coffee Shop.
That wasn't the name of it when I came.
Well,
But anyway,
later on it was Susie's, and they had fancy little curtains at the windows, and they had to close because people were stealing the silverware and
and the salt and pepper
Salt and
shakers
pepper
and the
shakers.
ashtrays, and they would take whole containers of napkins home
yeah.
and rolls of toilet paper. And paper towels. The residents of Leisure World just stole all that stuff.
Yeah, well then I guess the building was sold to Home Savings. And so Home Savings did all of that business of taking the kitchens out and there was still the outside
Bar.
place, it's still there, where people could sit outside and eat. They just didn't, that was on the outside
north
of the
side,
building.
you mean?
Huh?
On the north side of the building.
Yeah, back where the lounge was.
Mhm.
And so then Home Savings did all over
I think Home Savings has enclosed that, and that's where they have their coffee room for the no?
Mm-mm.
Well, I thought it was, because they have a big lounge for people,
East side.
customers of
Where
the
they had
homes.
On the north side, this you can see that it's on the outside of the building.
I see. Well, I've never walked around there, I don't know.
Well, anyway, all of those buildings over there in the shopping center were built to order for the people that were going to occupy them.
Mhm.
Alpha,
Does
Beta,
that land belong to Leisure World?
what
Or
there?
Does the land that's under the Leisure World Shopping Center, was that considered part of Leisure World?
No,
property?
it was part of the Hellman estate
I
that
see.
Mr. Cortese bought the land from.
I see.
And then he had it all planned, how the shopping center would be there. And then his corporate offices were in the Taj Mahal,
Right.
where Fidelity Federal is now.
Now, tell me, I want some information about how it is that the community church and the Catholic Church are down there, and how that came about.
Do you need a new tape in there?
Hmm?
Do you need a new tape in there?
I don't know. I can't tell. How?
It's 90 minutes.
Is it?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
didn't
you got a little
click
bit more
off.
on it. You have a little bit more on it.
Tell me about the church situation.
Well, Mr. Cortese he's Catholic, you know.
Oh.
So he gave that piece of land where the Holy Family Church is to the church. And I also understand that he gave the land for the community church to the community church. But I can't be sure about that.
Mhm.
And
But
so,
they are considered within the confines of Leisure World.
oh yes, they're a part of Leisure World. That was a part of his plan.
But people from outside can come to the churches.
Yeah. Well, he didn't think that far ahead. I don't believe. In those days, people just gave out their passes, you know, like I showed you,
Mhm.
with the people's names on them, and they could come in and just give up their pass. But I don't know how they worked it then.
Well, they still do. They come from outside. I understand.
Oh yes, they come through the gates, locked, supposed to be locked gates.
Yes, supposedly.
But on Sundays, the guards there to open for anybody that's going.
There's somebody standing there at the gate.
Supposedly. Doesn't always happen though. They leave it open.
So, okay, you got two churches. What about Lutheran Church?
The Lutheran Church, since there wasn't any more land that was planned, the Lutheran Church was able to get the land where they are in 1963, late 1963.
Hold it. We need a new tape.
Well, you do on the other side, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
You turn it over.
I don't know.
Here, you want me to do it? You see it?
Mhm.
Okay, just turn it. That's it.
The light's in my face. I can't see what I'm doing.
There you go. Okay.
Okay, the Lutheran Church.
Yeah, the Lutheran Church was, the church got it before the second Golden Ring Board was elected in 1963. But they didn't build until 1964. And they didn't get a large enough piece of ground, so they have a basement. And when we had the recent flood, you know,
Mhm.
it filled the basement and part of the sanctuary upstairs.
Mm. But that's also private property, owned by the Lutheran Church, or is that owned by Leisure World?
No, it's owned by the Lutheran Church.
They pay property tax and everything?
Oh, yes.
Mhm. Okay. You got any questions?
Well, now, I want to know how long those officers served. Like Letson, you said was...
Well, you mean the first Golden Ring Board?
Yeah.
They had their first meeting in June of 1963
Where?
in Clubhouse 3. I guess that's where it was.
Was it open to the residents?
Oh, yes. Oh, no. No. Never. They didn't open the Golden Ring Board meetings until the new board came on. The Reform
Board.
Committee.
Right. The ones that they had themselves, the fact-finding committee that had themselves elected.
Yeah.
Then they had open meetings?
Yeah, they had open meetings, and then before the open meeting, they had what they call a pre-meeting in room 10, where the computer club is now.
Mhm.
And they would decide then what they were going to have for the open meeting, the business for the
Like we
open.
later called the interim board meeting.
Well, yes, but they
They just fixed up the
met
agenda.
another day then.
Yeah, they just
Instead-
fixed up the agenda right then and there, right?
Yeah. At the
Did they
pre-meeting.
have committees like we have
Oh,
now?
yes.
Recreation, physical
yes.
property,
Oh,
so
yes.
on and so forth?
Mhm.
Where did the security guards come from originally? Were they residents?
They were all residents.
And the chief?
I don't remember whether he was or not. but I think so. In fact, it was a policy of the Golden Ring Board that all residents that were qualified were to be considered first
I see.
before any outside,
Yeah,
and very few outside people were working then.
I see. And how about in the offices? Were they also residents?
No, yes, most of them were.
Were they?
Yeah. The girl in physical property was a resident. The girl in the accounting office, the cashier, she was a resident. Helen Marshall now. And, well,
But Linda Powers wasn't a resident.
oh no, but she wasn't hired until the late 80s. Wait a minute. The early 80s.
I see. When I first came on the board, she was the assistant controller.
Assistant controller?
That's what the title was she had.
Golly, I guess it was in the 70s then when she was a clerk.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause she's worked here over 20 years. 'Cause she got her 20-year pin.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was in the 70s. See,
Now-
I left in 1971. No, 1971. Wait a minute.
Okay, Ethel, after that group, that management company, what was it called? National
Well, the National
Golden Ring? Was that?
Golden Ring
That
was
was Cortese.
Cortese.
Okay, then what?
Then, when I started to work for the Golden Ring Board, it was still the Russmore. They called themselves the Leisure World Seal Beach. No, it was not that. What did they call themselves? Anyway, it was still under Cortese until the end of '66 was when the contract was canceled. So I was working for him, really. But after he started getting so much gaff about it, he went down to Laguna Hills and supervised the construction down there.
I see.
And of course, you know, when 15 was constructed, it was like the ones he was building down there. And so he was able to buy stuff for our Mutual 15 and take it down there.
Oh, and he actually, in a lot of the apartments in Mutual 15 are much, much more luxurious than ours are.
Yes. Well, I've heard, and I have no substantiation for it. I've been looking through all of the material I have, and there is nothing that says that place over there was supposed to be the last 8-9 holes of the golf course.
Oh,
That's what I understand was the original plan. But he was making so much money building apartments that he decided to.
well, that would have been across the Del Monte.
Well, of course. That's what happens many times with golf courses.
Oh,
The
Sure,
last
go
night.
across the street.
The
Lot
la-
of them.
I see.
Well, right now, who came after Cortese got ousted? There must have been a management company come in.
J.L. Moyer.
J.L. Moyer, okay.
And so J.L. Moyer came in the late 60s.
In 66.
I see.
So how many years was he in that?
And was Davis the first administrator?
Yeah, he came in with J.L. Moyer. Moyer had already hired him. He was on his payroll. And Mr. Davis had some school teaching experience in the Long Beach School District. And I don't know the details. Oh, that's all I remember.
Who's Mr. Davis?
He was the
Jack
administrator. Jack Davis.
Oh, Jack. Oh, I always just thought of him as Jack Davis.
Yeah. So he was a school teacher.
Well, so far as I can tell, I'm not sure whether he was a school teacher or he was in the administration. Because I haven't been able to find anything in there, and that's all I remember, that he came from the Long Beach School District.
So how many years did that go on, JL?
Until Mr. Narang came. It was in the 80s.
Mr. Narang became our administrator in the fall of 1986.
Yeah.
You weren't on the board just then. You had gone off the board for a while.
I was on the board when Mr. Narang came in.
That was in the fall of 86.
I served from 85 to 86.
Narang bought J.L. Moyer Company. And then First Columbia, no, he went to work for First Columbia. Is that correct?
Right.
He was working for First Columbia, but he had been with Fannie Mae
before that.
And he went to work for First Columbia.
Yeah.
And they bought out J.L. Moyer Company, and then Narang bought out the J.L. Moyer part of First Columbia for
Moyer.
his own business. He bought out the J.L. Moyer portion.
The brokerage.
I don't know, was it a brokerage firm or a management firm?
No, J.L. Moyer was a management company.
Yeah, a management company, not a brokerage.
No.
That real estate thing just comes in there, you know.
Yeah, well,
But that's a long story before it got to there.
Go ahead, tell us the long story.
When I bought my apartment, it was the sales office was called New Horizons, and then after we moved in, then Cortese realized he was going to have some resales, and so he established a resale office over in the shopping center, where the insurance office is now, where Cass and Johansson is. And they called it Resales Incorporated. And they took care of all the resales, which I don't imagine was too big a job then, because people were moving in more than they were moving out.
Right.
And so then there were two men that were over there in that resales office, Jack Mears and Mr. Reich. I forgot what his first name is. And so Jack Mears decided that this was going to be a pretty nice plum. So he came in and talked to Mr. Camel about having a resale office in Leisure World. So they finally came to a conclusion that the Golden Rain Foundation would make a contract with Mr. Jack Mears. And so after I think that, no, he was in competition with the office over there. And because he was in competition, there had to be a contract made. So we had our office down there, across from Clubhouse 1, and in order to make some room for the real estate, we moved up on Northwood across from the GTE. I forgot the number of the apartment there. And so that apartment was used for real estate.
That's your phone.
I think I'm going to let it. after a while,
Wait, wait.
They hung up. They don't leave any message.
Okay.
so then after a while, Jack talked Mr. Camel into building the building down there for building a building, but they had to locate a place to put it. So then they decided the best place to do it was down there across from the entrance. So that's when that building was built, and he had the contract to sell the apartments in that building. Then Reich decided, Resale Incorporated decided that this was an unfair advantage. So he wanted to come in to Leisure World too.
Right.
And of course, you know, we still were under the Cortese contract.
Mm-hmm.
So then was when, after the resale office moved over into the new building, then Resale Incorporated came into that apartment.
Oh.
So you had 2 real estate places.
So I had, well, then of course, you know, after the contract was canceled, we could get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after we got the new administrator, the fact remained that we had to have a broker with a broker's license because Jack was going to retire. And
Jack
he was
Moyer?
Jack Mears.
Oh.
And so Mr. Moyer had the brokerage license. So that's how he happened to get in there.
So that's, and Bill Narang owns J.L. Moyer Company.
Yeah.
Before he bought them out. Didn't
He bought First Columbia's contract
Right.
that included J.L. Moyer. He owns First Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
He told me at one time he only owns that part of it, but I don't know if that's correct or not. Maybe I misunderstood him.
Well, that's what I understood. But I never really gotten this straightened out in my mind. That he really bought the J.L. Moyer portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, J.L. Moyer included at that time the management of Leisure World.
Exactly. They had the contract to administer Leisure World management.
But it was
company.
because Mr. Moyer had the brokerage contract that it got down there into that. Of course, Jack Mears married his secretary, and they moved into Mutual 3 and lived there for a long time.
They did. Jack Mears, how did he work into it? I've lost that.
He was the
The first.
first real estate man.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I understand you now. Okay, you got any questions?
Well, I'm still wondering now. The Columbia Management came, all right, but who was working for Columbia Management as in Narang's place? Narang wasn't here at first.
No, the Columbia management didn't come in here until after he bought J.L. Moyer out.
Mm-hmm. So he brought his own manager, or
He sent John Lafferty in as the
John
manager.
Lafferty.
Yeah, that was the first man that
First Columbia sent in
Yeah.
as the administrator.
and then
How long was John Lafferty here?
2 years, I think.
He was the administrator when I moved here in 1982. He's the one that ran orientation meeting that I went to. That's the only time I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was on the board at the time that they won Mr. I can't think of the president's name at that time. He got dissatisfied with Mr. Lafferty, and a few other people were. And so I remember the meeting. Mr. Narang, representing First Columbia, was in the meeting, and we told him what the problem was, and he was hard to convince. In fact, he then came in as an interim manager until
No,
I could
wait a
get
minute.
someone else.
He sent another man in first, that Richard
Oh, no.
Coon.
He was here first. Mr. Narang was here as an interim administrator, and then he put this other guy, whatever his name was,
Coon.
was there a couple of months, and he ran the charge account way up and was under the influence, and so.
I was already on the Golden Rain board when Coon was here.
You were.
And Narang was given the word by the president of the Golden Rain board, who was Howard McCurdy,
Yeah.
that either he came in here and ran this place, or they were going to get a new management company. And that was in the fall of 1986.
Yeah.
And Narang's been here ever since. He didn't attempt to replace himself. He supposedly attempted to replace himself, but didn't really, because the Golden Rain board told him, "We are your biggest customer, and we demand you be our on-site administrator." And that's how he comes to be here.
Yeah, because they had tried him out as an interim administrator, and he was really a crackerjack. They did, and then this other fellow was he just sat in he sat there in the open board meeting and never said a word. Nobody asked him any questions either.
And many times he didn't show up, or he was half tanked or under the. And at one time they found him lying down on the beach, just completely out of it.
Well, now you tell me that Bill Narang didn't know that?
No, he didn't,
Nobody
because
told
he was up there in
Wouldn't
the
somebody,
First Columbia offices.
wouldn't somebody convey that to him?
They did in no uncertain terms. This man the Coon was only here 2 months.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I mean, they got rid of him in a fat
Oh boy.
hurry. Because John Lafferty, the reason John Lafferty got discharged, John Lafferty walked into the fiscal property manager's office the morning of the day before Thanksgiving of 1985, and said to him, "You're fired.
Yeah, you see.
You are gone. Before the end of this day, you are gone." And the man sued Golden Rain for wrongful discharge. And then that's when the Golden Rain board, under Howard McCurdy as president, told Bill Narang that you get somebody down here that knows how to run this place. And they can't fire a department head without the executive committee approval.
No, you see. Well, Lafferty was a good administrator. I don't care what anybody says. He was good. But why he did that, I don't know. I can't imagine why, because I think he knew better.
He's running Leisure World in Mesa, Arizona now. And he's been there a long time. I have a very close friend who lives there, and she keeps me up to date on his activities. And It's
That's
just
interesting. Yeah.
some people like him very much and some people don't like him at all.
Well, of
which
course.
is normal.
It's just like here.
Yep, the same thing. You can't please
Exactly.
everybody. You can't please everybody. Not when you have this many people.
That's
No.
right.
Well, you see, we used to have 11,000 people.
Oh, we did?
Yeah. But you see, now we have so many single people living in Leisure World.
Right.
So many widows.
Widows and a very few bachelors.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're right.
Have I answered all of that now?
Yeah, you want to talk, what else you want to tell us about?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I want to know, what did they pay you?
Well, when I first started for the Gold Ring Board, they paid me $425 a month, which was what I was getting outside. But they told me that I could work part-time. And I thought, oh boy, that's great. Part-time. I never worked part-time. And all the time in fact, sometimes I'd have to work on Saturdays. And one or two times I worked on Sunday. Yes. Because you see, we're in the middle of that controversy.
Mm-hmm. You
And
really hit it at the right time.
I don't know why I took this job. Really, because I had an awfully good job at Turco Products. I was working for the traffic manager, and I did the bookkeeping for that department, and then it had to balance, with the with the big with the accountant.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the only reason was the drive, that long drive over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have moved into Leisure World anyway if it hadn't been for my mother.
And her mother left. Left. It wasn't exciting enough for her mother.
My mother,
Your mother left?
yes, she wasn't happy. She was living right on the street where there was noise going on,
It's too quiet.
I think it was too quiet. And then she had property up there and that she had rented. And she was worried about how they were going to take care of it. So she drove up there every day.
Oh.
And so one day I said to her, Mother, if you're unhappy here, it's not worth it. I think I can get along financially. I had 3 times the monthly payment with my $425. And so I thought I could manage all right. And the next day she called the moving van.
Well, she was dissatisfied, wasn't she? And she went back to her place.
Yes. And told those people to move out. So.
What else can we talk about Leisure World? What can we? I've turned this off because that has nothing to do with the Leisure World history.
So do you have anything to show us that we could put on film?
The artifacts that we have,
They're all in the...
they're in Clubhouse 2, in one of those little cases,
Uh-huh.
on the wall there.
Yeah.
We have some pieces of the very first china that everybody walked off with. Yeah. Edna and Jim Sharp have 4 place settings. And I asked Edna if she would give it to the Historical Society. And before I got it out of my mouth, she said no.
Why?
I don't know.
I hit 2 buttons instead of 1. Oh, they go together. You can't hit just one.
And so, and then I served on the Golden Rain Board from 74 through 75 because I replaced someone that was ill,
Mhm.
and she died right shortly after that. And they.
You had retired by then? Because you weren't.
Oh, no. Oh, yes, I was retired
Yeah, you
Yeah,
couldn't
retired.
You can't work or be on.
in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when I went out of that, off of the Golden Ring Board, then I got a director's chair instead of the globes that they gave later.
They don't give anything now.
No, I've got 2 globes, one from Mutual 3 and one from Golden Ring
I
Foundation.
didn't get one from Golden Rain Board. I did from Mutual 8.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this is a cute little thing, a director's chair, and so that's down there. And then Mr. Cortese gave all of the employees, as pioneers, he called them pioneers, a little pin that fastened, had that you could hook. Real cute little things. One of those is there. And I don't know what all Thea put up there. Thea is a
Historian.
former librarian. We have 2 former librarians on the,
We have a lot of librarians.
yeah, 2 of them on the Historical Society. Did you know that we got a new room over there?
Hey,
We got Clubhouse 1.
I was sitting there pushing it. After you left, they got
Well-
on the agenda. Remember when you were speaking?
Mr. Cooper must be as excited as we are. He had the carpet cleaned and the walls painted.
Are you in it yet?
No, he has to bring the files over.
Sure.
Well, anyway.
You're privileged. You people are privileged.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. You were asking about the office buildings.
Mm-hmm.
We had a committee that was pretty active in trying to find space to build office buildings or offices. And so it was decided, the newspaper went from the arcade over there by the Taj Mahal, Fidelity Federal, in that little arcade, over to the clubhouse. And when Mr. C. Richard Kay came in, he was Cortese administrator,
Oh.
but he was selected by the Golden Ring Board that was elected,
Oh.
and they interviewed 3 people, and C. Richard Kay was a former student of Mr. Camels at University of Southern California, and so he was selected. And he was quite a nice man, a very nice man, very intelligent. When he came, they put him in an apartment over on Nassau. I don't know what number it was now.
That far away.
Yes. Well, it was the only place that was available that they could get. You see, you have to get the permission from the mutual to do that.
Oh.
You can't rent an apartment without getting permission from the mutual. And so, then Mr. K instructed all the mutual officers as to what their powers were. That was his job, first job when he first got on the board.
Oh.
Then was a committee that would look into the possibility of finding land to build office buildings. And there just wasn't any land, because we took up for the administration building, took up what we thought was the only thing that was available.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decided that it might be possible to put offices up on top of the amphitheater there, alongside the projection room. And so they did that. And then they built the building where the newspaper is now. And the newspaper used the top floor for a paste-up room. And then they decided that they could put the newspaper in the front of the building and the business office back where the reception desk is now.
Mm-hmm.
You notice when you go from one to the other, you have to go through a little,
Mm-hmm.
well, that was the divider between the two.
I see.
And then, I don't know when Edna Wilson came along. She knew Mr. Camel. I guess it was long about 67 or 8 when Edna Wilson came. She's now Edna Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
she
was her job?
she managed the business office there.
Stock transfer, you mean?
Well, they changed it to stock transfer when they moved into the new building. It was called the business office then.
Well, by new building, you mean over next door to where the news office is, part of the news office is now.
It was where the news office receptionist and where Mr.
Right,
what's his name
right,
has
right,
his office.
right.
That was,
Correct.
and so then that was all the building that they thought they could do. And so they moved physical properties up on the top, on the
Above
west
the
side.
amphitheater. Mm-hmm.
And on the east side, Mr. Cooper had his offices in there, the whole
He
thing.
was the first one that had the community relations office up there.
Well, it wasn't community relations then. It was the recreation department.
Well, it still is.
And
now.
Carol was the girl who now manages the business office. Her stock transfer office was his reception clerk,
Reservation clerk.
reservation clerk.
There are many folks who are hungry. Our hunger is hidden. This money would allow more food to go into the system that serves the very poor. EFAP regulation says that you can only serve this to people who have or above 135% poverty. So we really are saving the poor of the poorest of the poor. And on my last comment, I just want to make, all I ever hear is about